Hello, everyone, and welcome to live lesson for Thursday, March the 8th. Sorry, I always forget the date when I do this. I don't know why. I am going to do another lesson. I did a live lesson yesterday. I'm doing another one because I just submitted back all of the theme worksheets that have come in, and I've noticed a couple of common mistakes. So, what I want to do is address these mistakes as quickly as possible because I know that we are working toward our four-part analysis as well as our final task, which is also within Unit 4 as well. So it's super important that we talk about theme and the idea of climax a little bit too in regards to our novel. So first thing I'm going to tackle is climax. So we talk about the rising action in terms of plot summary. We talk about rising action and then the climax and then falling action. So understand that this concept of plot graphing can be applied to anything, not just novels or literature. So it can be applied to books, it can be applied to movies, TV shows, whichever. It's the understanding and sort of the dissection of a story. So, rising action is when the story starts to climb up. Things are happening, we're meeting more characters, things are getting more complex, relationships are getting tangled. The concept of power, in our case, is shifting back and forth. So, it's that feeling like you know something's going to happen. That's the rising action. And the majority of you, which is not necessarily bad, identified that when Lenny accidentally kills Curly's wife, that's the climax. And you're so close. You're so close. And I can completely understand why you would say that because it's kind of a murder. Kind of a murder. And it's kind of what triggers the rest of the novel. But it's not actually. It's not the climax. Because once Curly's wife's dead, what happens to Lenny? It's kind of like, "Oh my God, you just did this. Now what?" So climax is defined and understood as the highest point of interest in a story. So it's kind of like when you know what's going to happen next. The minute you know what's going to happen next, you've passed the climax. So once Curly's wife dies, and we're kind of like, okay. What happens to Lenny now? So because you still have these unanswered questions, you haven't hit the climax yet. The climax comes as George takes Lenny to the woods or to the bush, and they start talking about the farm. And for some people, it starts like, I think I know what George is going to do. At that point, you know you're just at the climax or you're just past the climax. When you know the next step, you're past it. So it's when George, the climax of Mice of Men is in fact when George kills Lenny, because you know what he's going to do next. And then at that point, George most likely leaves the farm and goes about sort of his journey on his own. So you're very, very close. And I think the majority of you all identified the death of Curly's wife as the climax, which is actually good in the sense that it makes sense to me why you'd think that, but you just have to understand that climax is at the highest point of interest when all your questions basically get answered and everything kind of gets wrapped up. So sometimes it's that feeling like, oh, I think I know what's going to happen next, or it's the and then everything kind of closes. Some movies never really give a climax, and those are kind of the movies where things just end, and you're kind of like, what the heck? That's just, and you feel like there's no closure. Those types of things get a little more frustrating to identify climax. Quentin Tarantino is a great example of pure frustration for plot analysis because everything's kind of backwards. So that's kind of the understanding of climax. Now we're going to get into theme. Theme, theme. Super important and hard to grasp. And then once you have it, you got it. Theme and topics, they are two different concepts. So, theme, topic. Topic are think of one words like friendship, family, loneliness, grief, sadness, horror, anger. It is possible to watch a movie or to read a novel and have literally like 50 different topics. It is so possible to do that. And a really good movie or a really good story will have so many, will have multiple. Those are topics, though. They're one word. Think of them like almost like genre in the sense they're one word, and it's what your story deals with. Okay? Theme is what you learn from each topic. So, for example, love is an example of a topic. A theme about love is that true love conquers all. That's a theme. It's a teaching. It's what you walk away knowing, learning on the topic. Family is another topic. What has Of Mice and Men taught you about the topic of family? Well, one that would pop into my head really kind of rough right now would be family, blood, or I would say family is not always about who you are related to through blood. Family can, in fact, be friendship. And that is what Of Mice and Men has taught me. That it's not always about who your bloodline is in order to consider it family, because I would consider George and Lenny family. So, theme is what you walk away learning or understanding. And it's really important to kind of understand the difference between that because you need to know that for your Unit 4 as well as for your final task. So the understanding of theme versus topic is super, super important. And based on what I marked in the feedback I gave, I think there's some confusion with that. So another actually really good example that I get into is Disney movies. Disney movies are phenomenal at theme. They basically have, well, usually a couple, but I mean, they have this sort of moral message of each movie. So, The Lion King, Little Mermaid, what when you're sitting a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old down and they watch the movie and it closes or it ends and you say, "What did you learn from The Lion King? What did that show you about family, about grief?" We maybe a theme for grief for The Lion King would be off the top of my head, um, we never really die. We're all part of a greater circle. That might be a little complex for a 5-year-old, but that sort of understanding when you want to have that hard conversation about death and you watch the Lion King and you kind of have that conversation afterwards like, well, what did this teach you about the idea of death, the idea of friendship, the idea of Beauty and the Beast came out a couple years ago. They re-released it. What does Beauty and the Beast teach us about self-confidence or physical beauty? Well, it taught me that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or the idea that it's about who you are on the inside and not what you look like on the outside. One statement, one line, that's a theme. What you walk away learning from. Disney does a great job with that, where they're meant to be sort of simplistic moral messages, but tons and tons of topics within them. But then it's about, okay, breaking them down. What are we learning about these topics? What are we teaching? What morals are we teaching? What messages are we trying to get across? So that is theme versus topic. And I'm hoping this makes sense, and I'm hoping this helps. I'm gonna cut it here because I just realized I'm pushing over 8 minutes, and I don't want this to go on any further because I want you guys to keep watching them. So I'm gonna cut it here. I hopefully this is more helpful to you in terms of theme and topic. And if you guys have any further questions, please email me, and I'd be happy to help or go into more depth or arrange private chats and sort of kind of keep explaining this concept. So in the meantime, happy writing, guys, and we'll chat soon.